beautiful women in their 30s, Miss Trogi said. What are the men supposed to do? Wear blinders? Like Twinkle Toes over here, she said, pointing to Laine. Is she the woman who used to teach kindergarten? Another teacher asked, as Laine turned the corner. Laine thought Miss Trogi was kind of rude to the presenter, another young woman, but she was just like everyone else, wanting love. The women kept talking. He must think she can do it. He sees something in her, one woman said to the other. Laine's new boss at the Jewish school seemed to see in her qualities of a good bike lock, sturdy, attractive, well-made, reliable. She was like a bike lock that had good reviews, but hadn't been tested in the elements. He seemed to respect her for her intelligence, strength, and creativity, not just her physical attributes, and this kind of surprised her and relieved her after most of the jobs she'd had before this. When she looked it up on the internet, it said Jews considered women separate but equal. The rule was that men and women were supposed to have the door open when in the same room, and they couldn't ride together in cars. I'm willing to help such a valuable teacher, and I support you, he said. Thank you, she said. You're welcome, he said. She went to fix the bulletin board, and it sounded like he was asking his wife to pick him up because his car must have been in the shop. The trackway was so tightly glued together, it reminded Laine of the compression bridge she made in the 7th grade. Petite in stature, her bridge looked like it wouldn't hold much weight, but under the pressure it held up much longer than the heftier bridges. It was because she built it with such attention. It seemed to work to her advantage to stay out of the loop during this time, lost in her world of wonderment. Maybe the kids at the school would gain something from her determination. Cuchulain was one of them, she realized. Not some kind of hero, but an ordinary, troubled teen. Only why was Gwen giving her such a hard time, saying she was unfit as a warrior? It had only been her 2nd day on the job as a youth counselor. How'd she know one of the youth would get their hands on cough syrup? You know how to build an armband? Can you help me rip this piece of cloth and tie it over my shoulder? She asked Sethlin. Never mind, I can do it myself, she said. Feeling was coming back in her hand. She could flex her fingers, felt the sharp sensation. Hey, better to lose a lover than love a loser, Sethlin said. One good thing about devastation, whether emotional or physical, was that it cleared a path and took away the unessential from one's life. What happened had devastated her, but look at what she'd become because of it. She was a teacher to the little people, but she didn't want to be a teacher to a spouse. That was too exasperating. Most of the forest had been cleared, and Laine could finally see the road in front of them, even though it would eventually lead her down a different path as she walked it. "Do you have a stepdad?" one of her students asked. "Not exactly," she said, "but I've had many father figures." She thought of Jerry and Harlan. "What's the point of me writing all this if it's not real?" one of her students asked. She's superstitious. She believes in pots of gold and leprechauns. Laine felt sorry for them. They couldn't even eat Lucky Charms. It wasn't kosher. One couldn't take for granted that which didn't exist, only things and people that did exist. They were studying animal habitats, adaptation, and extinction. What if future people didn't know nature existed and had to watch videos to see what a giraffe looked like? Was that what art was? An imitation of real life? That was both natural and unnatural? And was art becoming somehow more natural than real life, especially fiction? They were saying about her online book, it was illogical, sensational, and incredible. It didn't have to make perfect sense. It just had to be beautiful and make people feel something. As she walked, she saw a crane standing on the opposite shore. "You're quite quixotic in a lovely way," she told the crane. "Your romanticism gives you an otherworldly quality." She wondered if it was true that these animals mated for life. She couldn't take for granted the gift of personal solitude required for her to develop her skills. "I am at peace with my solitude. I have all the time in the world," she told herself. She couldn't let the ones who didn't believe in magic stop her from walking in hers. Thinking back to the youth building the road, it had surprised her that the youth corps were the ones building the road Jerry had told her about so long ago. In the book he had written about the Corlia trackway, Laine read that the remains of the people building the road left behind no archaeological evidence to show they existed, because they left no recordable objects behind. One idea behind this was that they stayed in tents while constructing the road. If these children were working as soldiers in times of war, she didn't see why they couldn't be doing other things like building roads. It made sense that children didn't have as many worldly goods as adults. Children helped construct society. At home, they had responsibilities and pressures all their own. They sometimes made mistakes, but they were good kids. Teachers were like glue. They got squished, but they kept things together, or like the cartilage between the active muscles. It hurt, but it wasn't forever. Her heart was growing by contributing.